Welcome back everyone to another Hearts of Iron 4 mod spotlight. And this time, as you can see, we're starting off in the artillery trees, so you know it's another unit mod. This time, it's, well, not just the unit mod, it's a little bit more. It's quite interesting. It's called Sanguinem et Lacrimis, which in Latin does mean blood and tears. So a very, very pleasant name, I would guess. And this mod does quite a few interesting things. And first off, I decided to start off showcasing the artillery line. That is because, as you can probably surmise, there's a few improvements to one of the most bland, actually, lines that normally would be in the game. In a way that's kind of interesting. Normally, you just see things like, okay, yeah, railway artillery, we've seen this and done that. Tons of fort attack, that sort of stuff. We know how it works. But then we wouldn't see, much more. Maybe you would just see a little bit more down range to the 50s, a little bit more of an addition to text that are normally there already, but generally to the same spirit, like, soft attack, etc., etc. In this mod, however, it's interesting because not only the artillery techs just give bonuses to both artillery and self-propelled artillery later on, as you can see, they also give bonuses to things like heavy cruisers and battleships, and then they do other things such as having more different effects later on. So if we go here, we can see that, for example, you can also get upgrades for things like your naval mission efficiency with this AT rockets. I'm not sure as to why, but yes. Also air superiority plus 20%, so having the attack against tanks from aircraft, etc., etc. And then, for example, AT guns having HESH shells against fortifications, so giving fort attack to various different anti-tank units, which is very interesting. Anti-tanks give bonus hard attack and piercing to tank destroyers and tanks, so there's now a reason to upgrade your anti-tank guns other than just having anti-tank, brigades on your infantry or your mechanized units. Then in the anti-air, you also get naval AA attack from upgrading your normal anti-air. So that's another reason to spend a little bit more time going for that as well. Also, in the rocket artillery branch, there are more models of rocket artillery. You go down and you get the advanced rocket artillery, but then you can also get the modern rocket artillery 1953. And you can get a second level of motorized rocket artillery, which is pretty great. And appropriate upgrades, which both benefit motorized and normal rocket artillery. And then you can also get, from a combination of the rocket artillery and the AA gun, you can get surface-to-air rockets. So what's really nice to see is that you can eventually just get SAMs in 1950s and such, this giving you tons of naval AA attack and a new unit to play with in case your game goes on for that long. Then you also have some other techs that increase your naval AA attack and the likes, so some pretty interesting things. You can also get the air-to-air missile, but that's, I guess, a topic for another day because it's only one tech and not really all that interesting. Then there's a lot of industry expansions, pretty much the ones that you'd expect with the normal branches, so having more concentrated industry, etc., going down, and just getting more bonuses. I guess that's just the more boring part, just more text down here. What's interesting is partially the basic naval production text, so having a separate line that also increases your dockyard output and your naval base construction speed in case you want that extra effectiveness in building ships. And then you also have some additional construction text over the excavation. So you have the first one of the additional construction tests. The normal one are the same. So you get the first two with construction speed, then you go down and you get some more repair speed, and sometimes repair speed, sometimes construction speed. So they're both useful. And then obviously here is resource gain efficiency, pretty much what you'd expect normally. What's interesting is this left side. So you get the infrastructure construction. So you get infrastructure construction speed and air bases construction speed. And then you go down and you get land forts, coastal forts. So sort of in an alternating way, you gain bonuses towards constructing various different types of buildings, which is, I guess, an interesting little mechanic. Then well, obviously, this is conjunct with these two other trees, but we'll be looking into those a little bit later, because mainly you'd be looking at that for something like these amphibious units. So, as I said, this is primarily a unit mod, but it's also got some other types of technologies. So, for example, you have the desert support unit and the jungle support unit, which you should probably be expecting that. And then they can come down and do this. I would highly recommend to use this with some mod that increases the penalties for attrition in different types of terrain and weather, because, well, yeah, the main problem with these is that normally there isn't really all that much attrition that you'd be suffering in some areas. Well, maybe, okay, the heat attrition, I can see why you'd be wanting to defend against that, because it can be very, very sort of... It can be a very, very annoying piece of attrition in the heat. But in the winter, there isn't really all that much going on in Hearts of Iron 4. So I would highly recommend to use this along with a mod that increases your weather attrition and makes it more meaningful. Then you get the gliders, which jump down to the light glider tank and the glider cargo. Also, in general, just a lot of things for paratroopers. So all these help out with your airborne divisions, and all these help out with your marine divisions. You can get mechanized marines with the amphibious vehicle, which is a 1940 tech. I believe you require normal mechanized. Yes, you require normal mechanized and marines research to go for this, obviously. So this is going to be increasing your amphibious and river attacks pretty much as you'd expect. And it's going to be a very nice addition to your marines because, well, now you can make them have a little bit more of a punch, especially with something like amphibious tanks, which have been added. So you can get those amphibious light tanks, and then you can either branch off in an advanced amphibious tank, and then you can either go for that or the medium tanks for those marine divisions. So that's very nice. You can grab a little bit of extra punch with those. And then you go and you can have more different types of units for this penal battalions and political units tree. So you can get penal battalions, which are quite manpower intensive and not very reliable, it would seem. I'm not quite sure as to how that would do, but oh well. Yes, not exactly the best unit, but quick to train. You may want to use them. Who knows? Maybe for roleplay. I don't know. And then you can also grab yourself commissars. So political officers are in as well. They give a lot of suppression bonus, and they also give a lot of bonuses to organization. And well, I thought they gave defense bonuses, but it appears that they take away from defense, so that's sad. But yes, all these are very nice, just flavor units. And then you can also grab some extra text for them. For example, you can send criminals to the factories, which is interesting, I guess. Not quite sure as to whether or not that counts as a crime, but yes, you can do that. You can do that as well. Then, what definitely is a crime, however, is chemical warfare. So there is an entire chemical warfare tree. What's very interesting, I've not tried this yet. When you research chemical warfare, it grants an event to everyone. Well, to us, definitely, but I am pretty certain that it basically gives an event to everyone. Initiate chemical warfare. Now, hold on. Let's actually do that. Obviously, going to be cheating that in. So, what would that do? Let's just... Okay, initiate chemical warfare. Yes. Yep, it does give it to everyone. Okay, perfect. I did not... yeah, obviously, we are the first nation using chemical warfare, so everybody's opinion of us is very bad, especially the people whom we are at war with, who get a -40 opinion. I mean, obviously, yes, obviously not really that useful because we're already at war with them, so it's not like they were going to like us regardless of that. But yes, it's nice that there's that flavor slash mechanic, because, well, it kind of makes sense because during the war, I believe nobody really did any chemical warfare with actual like gas attacks, but they still had essentially this fear that somebody would start doing it, and so everybody had chemical weapons and everybody kept producing chemical weapons. Well, obviously Italy used chemical weapons in Ethiopia, but that was a little bit before the war, and nobody cared about Ethiopia, so that's exactly the reason why the Italians got away with it. Then you can get various different tactics researching various gases. So for example, the yellow cross agent increases your defender tactic damage by a ton. The green cross increases your defending tactic damage by a bit, and the blue cross also gives you attacker tactic damage as well. So both have their improvements, and they do etc. But they're countered by gas masks. So that's what's really nice, that they managed to implement a bit of a system where it would make sense, right? Because, for example, in the Great War mod, you have that the gas masks give just defense in general. But why would a gas mask, give you more defense against bullets? That doesn't really make any sense. So they managed to get that sort of mechanic right, it would seem, in this mod, which is nice. Of course, there's also chemical strategic bombing, which is, I think, a little bit too effective. But, and, well, maybe tactical bombing makes a little bit more sense, but for strategic bombing, I'm not quite sure. There's also white phosphorus, which does not, interestingly enough, give you the event for initiating chemical warfare. So you can use that basically the entire time, despite the fact that white phosphorus is arguably a little bit more cruel than gas. And yes, that gives you breakthrough for obviously both artillery and infantry. Well, obviously, all frontline battalions, I think, also means armor. Yeah, okay. So, tons of breakthrough from white phosphorus. Then there's also the officer training schools, which normally just reduce your military training cost, but then give you starting level new army leaders and then division training time reduction. Interestingly enough, in the flight schools, which is the second branch of the officer school, you can go down and get either honor or death and flight mission maximum. So flight mission maximum, I think, would be more of a sort of efficiency / pragmatic related doctrine for pilots, and then honor or death is just trying to be, yeah. And then you can go honor in death, and you can get kamikaze strikes. So for example, if you are Italy and you can't get kamikaze strikes normally, for example, normal nations can get kamikaze strikes with ideological fanaticism, but I don't think somebody like Italy can, unless I am missing something. No, it doesn't look like it. Nope. So unless you're like the Soviet Union or Japan, if you're a major country, or you're a minor country that's going with the democratic tree, you can't get kamikaze strikes, but that's a way to do that. So it's another extra option that never hurts. And then you can get the Civilian Bureau tree, which, as it says, it's basically about using propaganda. So you can either get more political power from the start, and then you can branch off into several different, very interesting trees. One of them just giving less partisans, that's the most boring one. Some more national unity and ideology drift defense. These two are the more interesting ones. This one on the right side basically is war bonds, austerity measures, and mobilization, giving you some more recruit pop and less consumer goods. And then civilian truck conversion basically increases your production cost for motorized. And then the commandeer civilian vehicles gives you a event. The more industrialized our nation is, the more vehicles will be available for us, so you get some free trucks for you, which is interesting. It's a very nice mechanic, and I like that. And then there's also a few more changes that are kind of in the background that are kind of okay, but aren't really that important. Essentially, what I really like about this mod is that it gets all these changes done without really being too, I guess, in your face. So I would also think that it would be compatible with basically every mod that does not alter the tech tree. or maybe the events as well. I'm not too sure on events. So you can do some nice stuff with this mod that would normally not be possible, such as the chemical warfare tree, the chemical warfare mechanics, the mechanized marines and such. So it gives you more options without being too in your face, without changing the game a little bit too much. And it also gives some extra options for the later game as well, which is, I guess, nice, because the later game of Hearts of Iron was kind of lacking. In fact, it somehow always made it possible to have less unit variety in the later game compared to other eras of the game, despite the fact that it's obviously in the 1950s, so it's supposed to be more variety rather than less. But oh well, that's basically what you get. I believe Jet Strat Bomber was not there either. Maybe not. Who knows? But yeah, I want to thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed the mod. As always, I did not make this. The link will be in the description. Hold on, did it change anything for radar? No. I would like it to have changes for radar as well, which is, something that I would normally never research, but yeah. So, as always, I did not make this mod. The link will be in the description, and then you can thank directly the author on the Steam Workshop page. I want to thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you will play the mod and try it out for yourself, and I'll see you soon.